Beardy and the Beast Media Club.
Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba. This is a placeholder intro song.
Thank you for joining us for a very spooky Beardy and the Beast, a full spoiler discussion into a piece of media. We will serve those spoilers for consumption to hide our dark deeds. As always, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to play a trick on your friends by sharing us with them. Full list of services we're available at can be found at beardyandthebeast.com. This Spooktober, we'll be delving into the deepest and darkest cinema, musicals. Today we'll be discussing 2007's Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber at Fleet Street. So Dev, did this piece leave you drained or did it satiate your hunger?
I mean, which is better in this case? Or that kind of hunger.
Brains.
I quite enjoyed this movie. Quite enjoyed watching it again. It's been a while.
Been a while.
I was gonna do it, but we literally just did it before we hit record.
It's always a perfect time to been a while.
Wow,
Photographs. All right, so so it was great watching this movie again for the first time. It was very enjoyable, and I only remembered 2 bits.
Mm.
I completely forgot the daughter and sailor subplot.
Mm.
I completely forgot about the workhouse orphan.
Yeah, I completely forgot about him too.
I forgot the rival barber was some, over the top fake Italian shyster guy. I even forgot it was a musical.
Must be a Disney film.
We're talking about Disney films aren't musicals. We discussed this. I'm trying to. I literally only remembered that they killed people with a straight razor, put them down a tube, they got made into pies.
I mean, to be fair, that's if you were to explain it to someone, that would be the explanation. It's funny, one of my friends, he was telling me he went and saw it with his brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And that's basically the description he gave him. And gets into the theaters like, wait a second, is this a musical? He's like, yep, deal with it. I don't know. One thing that I always find funny with this, I'm not sure if you remember downtown, right near where we used to do our game nights.
Yeah.
There was the Sweeney Todd barbershop there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Just beside the gas station, just across the street from that gas station. And I always found it hilarious.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago, but it's something that stuck with me because I'm like, really? Really? That's what you chose to go with?
you could say, it's been a while.
Yeah. So, how was rewatching it for the first time?
I actually really enjoyed it. I remember liking it the first time.
Yeah.
And I think I find my subjective appreciation of movies lessens when I'm watching them in a more analytical sense.
Mm.
But I think this movie holds up more when you're kind of dissecting it as you're watching it.
Mm.
Because you get to appreciate all the little bits that they do for, say, the musical components, or how they're reusing songs, the multiple songs that they draw back to earlier in the film, things like that. Whereas if you think of this more objectively, a lot of the songs were very simple.
Mm.
And the actors themselves, though they did a great job singing, you could tell it wasn't exactly their forte.
Hmm.
They didn't have the same showmanship and ranges and so forth. But one thing I really wanted to commend them on, and this is something you taught me when we were recording for Little Shop of Horrors, how they're singing and how they're sing talking like works within the scene and how they're commuting back and forth with each other. Like I thought they were doing that at an expert level.
Yes. So I was gonna. It's funny. I almost think our discussion might have been better served if we recorded these in the opposite way,
Mm,
because I think a lot of the things I was talking about is exactly what you mentioned here. Is like, okay, you're noticing the songs coming back and such,
hmm.
whereas we weren't seeing that in Little Shop. Fun fact: Sondheim, the person who wrote this is the only film production of any of his musicals that he's actually liked,
Oh, really?
and he actually had a hand in casting. Like, so even though Tim Burton obviously has to cast Helena Bonham Carter, he actually didn't get the say in it. She had to send in audition tapes to Sondheim
I
to
love
get
that.
approved for it. Yeah,
It's nice to see like at least a little bit. Like you never know when it comes to a component where it might be nepotism, but this took any consideration out of that.
yeah,
They're just like, no, she's here on her own laurels, right?
yeah. Burton's biggest requirement was like, no, I want to have Johnny Depp, and he had to prove himself too because Sondheim thought it'd be too rocky. So, interesting casting trivia. I did not get to read near as much of the trivia as I'd wanted to because I'm bad at this.
Tim Burton's only real must have in this film was probably related to having her kiss Johnny Depp at some point. Because it's a weird thing about these three people, especially like when Tim Burton and Helena Bonham Carter were together. Like it just
Yeah.
seemed very weird, especially like I saw an interview with Johnny Depp and he's like he has this weird fascination with me making me kiss his partner.
I did not realize that. That is amusing. Yeah, it checks out. Uh, I also liked how many Harry Potter actors there were. So many.
Yeah,
So,
it kind of felt like a little Harry Potter reunion before the
mhm.
fact.
To be fair, the only one that actually like really took me out of that was what's his
Sacha
name?
Baron Cohen.
He wasn't in Harry Potter.
Hmm?
He wasn't in Harry Potter.
Yeah, so he would have taken you out of it, or no?
No, no. I I'm not a big fan of Sacha Baron Cohen.
Oh, neither am I. I
No,
pompous guy who like takes advantage of ethnic communities while complaining on social media that other people are racist and stuff. It's so dumb. Like the
oh
biggest of hypocrites. I don't understand how he's not laughed out, but
yeah. No, it was Timothy Spall. Is the one who throws me out. One who plays uh, Beetle,
mm.
and it's just because I only see him as what's his name from Harry Potter. Whereas
Oh yeah.
a lot of the others, like yeah, you happen to be in Harry Potter, but I've seen Helena Bonham Carter and other things. Alan Rickman obviously has been around forever.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Beetle was from Harry Potter. That being said, he had far less musical interaction than you would have expected for like a character with at least as much presence as he had.
It's true. Yeah, it's one thing. Like I'm not familiar enough with the original stage play to know how much music got cut out.
Hmm.
Um, the one thing, like And again, just a little bit of trivia that I did manage to read. So I'm sure you noticed Anthony Stewart Head was in there. Good old Giles.
Wait, was he?
Yes. He only had like a line.
So many cameos I just didn't know.
Yeah. He like right after the shave off,
Yeah.
he basically has like the last line of the scene. It's like, hey, do you have a business?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch that.
But apparently it was because like, and Christopher Lee apparently there were scenes filmed with him too. And they were supposed to basically do a chorus for some songs that they ended up removing from the film. So, we just got the cameo of him.
Maybe that's what I felt was missing from this film. Change gears here. There wasn't really your big chorus scene with your background singers and stuff.
Yeah.
Like walking down the streets and everybody's singing, and then like you have your lead, which is, the protagonist or the antagonist.
Mm.
There wasn't anything like that, was there?
No. And I think that's the right choice, just because of how the rest of the film plays out. Like you want to have those choral pieces more so on stage because they're your main framing devices, that type of thing. Whereas in film, you can do a lot more with the visual language that you don't necessarily need to have that, and could actually take away from the emotion of the film itself, especially if there's only a couple pieces in it.
Yeah, the only thing that song that comes to mind immediately where it would have been right to use it, it would have been the wrong choice to use it. And that's the one where he's like, it's in his head, but he goes down the stairs and then he's going to random people on the street in the alley being like, do you want to shave? You look like a gusher, or things like that. And he like does that 4 or 5 times, and it's kind of like, is it an interlude to a song or an intro? It's not exactly the song itself, but it is musical.
Interlude is in between.
Yeah, between like a song and 2 songs.
Yeah, that'd be an interlude.
Yeah, but that part, it would have been the wrong choice for it to be like a bigger number. But if there were to be one that involved a lot of like background characters, it'd be that one. And I mean, the Shave Off didn't have a song; it didn't need one.
Yeah. No, and the little bit of a song they had for the Shave Off made perfect sense. It's just like, Sacha Baron Cohen being Sacha Baron Cohen.
You know what? A fun piece.
Yeah.
The remix of for Mrs. Lovett's Meat Pies. Little kid starts it, he could have a little bit of like a rowdy, like we're drinking and eat pies, like a little 30-second customer number.
Yeah,
like Mrs. Lovett's going around table to table, kind of singing a thing about what she's getting and stuff. It would have been, that's the only real place that you could have.
Like, it's a choice you have to make in when you're doing these adaptations. I know Rent did something similar. They ended up cutting a song. It's like one of my favorite songs from the play, but they ended up removing it. So in the stage play, they had basically interludes of like the 2 main characters singing. Right, it's very much more all singing with no dialogue on the stage play. They always kind of had these little character interactions of them singing, but they changed it to spoken word in the film. And because of that, they had to cut out a song near the end of the film because it literally would have been the first time they sang to each other, and it just felt weird.
Oh. That's unfortunate.
Because they just never had that interaction. And again, from the film standpoint, it made sense for them to do it as dialogue. So I think things like that always kind of will always kind of kick up. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
And I'm trying to think, like in Sweeney Todd, each of the pieces were satisfactory. And I mean that kind of in a different context, as in you're left feeling satisfied for each one is. And again, none of them are really those big showpieces.
Yeah.
None of them are like super belty or like even super musical, to be honest.
Mhm.
But they all hit the right spot.
Yes.
And I think a lot of that, like, I've kind of already established my appreciation for like the delivery from the actors and actresses, but I think a lot of the shot choices and the pacing, so a lot of coming down to like the directing and editing to make
Mhm.
each one feel right and the perfect place for each piece.
Yeah. That was one of the big things that I actually really liked. Because we'd kind of talked previously about how live action musicals are this weird thing because you get the sense of realism, but then music. So it can be hard sometimes for it to work on film
Yeah.
to bring people in properly. While this one here didn't have the stage aspect that Little Shop had,
Yeah.
it was so filled with Burton
Mm.
that you already had that sense of fantastical. And I really enjoyed like with the shots. It's like I could see like his film career throughout.
Well, this is a great
It's like,
analysis. I couldn't agree more, in fact. Because what I was thinking is like, with Little Shop of Horrors, it was very much they were kind of invoking the stage play feel.
mhm,
And they did an okay job. They could have done a little better. They could have done much, much worse.
mhm,
But in this case, they didn't go with stage play and they didn't necessarily go with film form.
mhm.
So for it to be Burton-esque, and we're talking real Burton, not Burton is the producer, so he gets his name, but he didn't actually direct or do the animation.
To be fair, he did create that.
I'm just saying.
Throwing that out there, he did create it. I think that he. I remember there actually being some reason why he couldn't actually work on that, but Nightmare Before Christmas is what we're talking about. In case you don't know,
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, it was such a phenomenon that, like, emo and goth girl wannabes had freaking Jack Skellington, um, memorabilia and Sally memorabilia, like, hanging off of them at all times for, like, 2 decades.
yeah, because there's no way that hasn't stopped.
But, I'm just
Which
saying, like, it's it's weird that like Henry Selick and the animators and that stuff don't get a lot more recognition. Everybody's just like Tim Burton, Tim Burton. I'm like, I mean, sure, like if he created the characters, awesome.
yeah,
I mean, the screenplay was by him, so but it's just like it seems like a shame that he gets so much recognition for a piece that fundamentally wasn't exactly his.
yeah, I think it's a weird one because it's kind of that same situation as like Alita,
Mm,
where it's like you can feel Cameron's presence all over it, but it's Rodriguez that did it.
that's true.
Um, right? And it's because it is something that like he wanted to do but couldn't. But you're right. No, Selick and them, they need to get the recognition they deserve on it too.
I mean,
Um,
that being said, like without Burn, it probably wouldn't have been made or made in the way it was. So, in the end result, we ended up here. I can probably throw a stone and accidentally hit a goth girl wearing a, let's just say, Dr. Finkelstein patch on her backpack, on her bloody heart Arctic fleece backpack. Um, well, you gotta have so my final point about this before we get back on track is you do gotta kind of appreciate it because, like, what feet guy?
Whedon?
No, the other one,
Tarantino?
Tarantino. So I was it Tarantino brought Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon over here? Just
That
like
sounds right.
yeah, like it was a full-fledged film, and then like a year later he brought it over here, and then people got to experience that, and it was
Mm.
like it's a great film. Maybe a bit too long, but it's great. And that interest being able to draw people. So Tarantino didn't really have anything to do with it except for putting up money to have it come over as an artistic expression. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's I cannot remember one of the Johns doing the I cannot remember his last name. Basically doing the same thing with Disney and bringing over Mononoke. Right? It's like it's just as important to have that happen as well.
Exactly.
Oh.
As far, I was surprised, just to get way back on track, kind of talking about like the musical timings and stuff.
Yeah.
The only one that didn't hit right or that didn't seem to be on the beat was the first talking during a song that Alan Rickman was in. Yeah, he was like, he had another one later that was perfect. Like he was talking on the beat. But like his first interaction, I can't remember which song it was. It was just like,
it's the first. No, he did something before Pretty Women, right? No, he didn't.
No, he had like an interjection or a. Anyways, it was just it was a surprising fact. Like he was nailing it later, especially when they were doing Pretty Women.
I think he was part of Joanna. I think there's some talking around that one.
That was it. Yep.
I almost wonder sometimes, in not being familiar with the original stage show, it's a little hard to say. But because you said like it wasn't the talking on the beat and such. I almost wonder if it was like an interjection, like a for a pacing thing, instead of just having it be one guy's song about Joanna. It would have just been his song, like a soliloquy almost, in the stage play.
Okay.
With some of that discussion happening outside of it. A theory for why we might not have had that same beat aspect to it. But yeah, I'm not familiar enough with the original to be able to say if that's accurate or not.
Yeah, it felt, and of course you ruined me on this in our previous discussions, but it felt like tangential or even anathemic just to the piece, because like it kind of graded in a different direction. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I guess that's why it's important.
Practicing the beat.
I mean, for a little bit now. It's been a while. I hope that's the third one, so I can stop now.
Just walks by.
Well, we only got one photograph, so we can. I still think this is so funny because, like, what was it in? I don't know if it'll be out yet. No, it won't be out yet, and definitely the conversation won't be out yet. But in an upcoming Second Wall watch party, we're thinking about branding. You so entertainingly brought up that not only are you someone who is trained as a musician, but you're also someone who loves musicals. And like goes to them and watches them, but for some reason I just sing so much more in all these casts.
You really do. Probably because it's funny.
I just like to sing, I like to sing. Dr. Zeus.
Dr. Zeus.
Now that's a musical I'd watch.
Hey, I mean, Tim Burton has done a Planet of the Apes.
Well, now he can do the Simpsons rendition of Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's technically going back on track, is talking more about that. Because we're talking about how like it was very the fantastical aspect was the Burtonisms.
Yeah.
In it. So it's like there's definitely a lot of shot choices that obviously felt like they called back to Edward Scissorhands. Definitely helps that Johnny Depp is there. For some reason, you make that type of comparison. The one that obviously we've got things like Corpse Bride and such, where you've got that goth aesthetic, even like Batman.
Wait, My mind is playing tricks on me now. Because again, I
It,
forgot this was a musical. Was Edward Scissorhands a musical?
no,
Okay.
no, no. That one was not. No, no. It was just
That's not
shot.
a joke, I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, no. It was that was just shot choices
Okay.
that jumped out there. Um, the one that actually really surprised me, uh, that stood out in a good way, that really helped solidify the Burtonisms to me, was the scene of them having the picnic under that tree.
Oh, it was so good. That was my favorite scene.
It was so good, and having all of a sudden this color pop, and it made me think of like Big or Big Fish.
For me, honestly, it screamed Adam's Family.
Hmm.
Like especially values.
Mm.
Because like they're the children are like in their goth wear and they go to like summer camp or whatever. And everything else
Mm.
is lively around them, but they're just like these weird goth family.
I definitely see that, and like I don't disagree with that connection. It was honestly very specifically the shot of the way the tree was lit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it was very specifically the tree. And it's like that could have been directly from there. So it was just really interesting seeing kind of all these different little mixes of his style throughout. That's where I was going with that.
And I think like if someone were to be like Tim Burton intentionally made this to pay like homage to his other films, I could see an easy argument for it.
Yep.
For all the reasons that you're saying. Uh, I mean, obviously, it's an intentional choice, and he probably knew that the comparisons would be drawn.
Mm.
But that being said, he does kind of have a reputation for a certain type of filmmaking. So
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean that he hasn't had some misses in there somewhere along the line.
it would be funny if Batman showed up at some point.
I think I saw something about Michael Keaton possibly being someone who they had thought of to play Sweeney Todd at some point. But that's because apparently they've been trying to do this in production for a lot longer, for a while, like 20 years type thing.
Keaton should have been Beetle.
Yeah.
That would have just been fun.
Yeah, that would have worked.
Um, so let's change pace a little bit here and get more into the musical side. I know that I have less knowledge in this kind of aspect, especially when it comes to the like musicals in general.
Mm.
And that was kind of showcased in our Little Shop cast.
Yeah.
There was one thing. So obviously the scene under the tree,
Mm.
like the beach scene, that was like a bit of an I want, right?
Yes, that would have been the I want from Mrs. Lovett.
But during the what is it, like These Are My Friends, where he gets his blades and he starts thinking about like starts personifying them and singing about them, like these are my friends, and her behind him just being like, I'm your friend too, and then kind of like building up, and then she's singing about the fact that she wants him and loves him.
Yes.
But he's singing about he has these razors and he's gonna kill people. I was just wondering, it like seemed to be a bit of like a hybrid, like intention slash, I mean, I guess a foreshadowing song on Lovett's aspect, but it kind of felt wanty.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that an I want song
Mm.
because it wasn't. It was, I can't remember what the term is. It was basically just a way of showing the general emotion that was happening in the general mind state. It wasn't that pining that you have, the look for just
That makes a lot of sense to put it that way, like, because at that point you kind of get a feeling of who they are, but you don't exactly understand what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And they kind of just lay it out with that one song, having Sweeney Todd sing about his intentions, whereas Mrs. Lovett or Miss Lovett is Mrs. She a Mrs.
Yes, she was married.
Okay.
Yes, we see the picture of her late husband.
So there's probably a song about that missing in the film. Yeah, so she's thinking about her desire and her intention. So that makes
Mm,
sense. Because, like, leading up to that, you have no idea she has feelings for him.
mm.
And just to accelerate the plot, they kind of go, obviously she does in this piece.
There's some interesting things they did around Love It with that. It's like, and you have those her pining for him almost,
Mhm.
not quite. Um, like clearly she knew a lot about his life. Uh, I think she chose her place to have her pie shop for a reason.
Okay.
Uh, so I almost got that impression that I could have seen her being interested in him way before because she clearly knew about his wife and his daughter and him. I don't think it would change the plot knowing that that's the case. I think they did well enough to hint at it.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we went back and kind of watched the beginning, if we would see her kind of like peeking behind a bush or taking a look at him that way.
Mm,
That that would probably be a choice that might be made by the writers and directors of this. Like just a little hidden Easter egg you don't notice until like the fifth watch.
mm. I yeah, I could see that. Definitely found it in what we see.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So there's actually one thing that I noticed with her in a couple of the pieces is like I think it's something that people could have very easily missed. So you have Sweeney Todd is I can't remember who he was talking to. Um, I think he was talking to a Beetle, and basically being we as the audience know he's like, no, he's definitely going to give him the closest shave of his life.
Yeah.
Um, One thing I really noticed was even though she was out of focus, you could like she was doing so well at reacting to what was being said that it was just like, nope, you can tell exactly how her gaze is going. I thought that was really nice acting on Carter's part.
Some like pure Legolas. which is a
Oh,
reference to the fact that in the Lord of the Rings movies, Legolas has like almost no lines. So what you actually remember of Legolas is just gestures and reactions that have to be perfect because he doesn't actually get to say anything.
yeah. Don't
And
remember Legolas. You remember Gimli.
and and no one ever realizes that in the films, Legolas never actually talks to Frodo. Like they've never actually met. They saw each other across like an outdoor gazebo thing, and that's it.
Yep.
I guess
Oh
they did
yeah.
walk until yeah. Anyways,
Um,
photograph.
that's at least 3 now. Really good, and I think a lot of like the makeup and just like and Bonham Carter's eyes it made it very clear where she was looking at, even when it was like way out of focus.
Mhm.
Yeah, good stuff to see. Um,
There was a lot of in a lot of these songs, especially when they were more like duetish. It
mm,
seemed like there was a lot of like singing past each other opposed to like talking past each other.
mhm,
And that song, like the "These Are My Friends" song, that was what was happening there. But one that kind of broke the mold, probably my favorite piece was the what was it? Was it Joanna? The one? No, Pretty Women. Just like the very different intentions when singing very similar lyrics to each other, and just
yes.
having a duet in a very fun situation.
Yeah, and it's something you see a lot more in stage musicals. You don't see it as much in Disney films because some people claim they're not musicals,
Not musicals.
um, which is obvious. Obvious why, but you'll get a lot of that. If you think Doctor Horrible has it with there's the one piece where Captain Hammer, Doctor Horrible, and Penny are all singing. They're completely different lyrics, but they've got just those like syllables that are the same.
Yeah.
Um,
I should watch that
and
again.
yeah, it's so good. The Buffy musical episode did a very similar thing with the piece near the end where they're all on their way to go help Buffy.
I've never
There's
actually seen
actually
it.
First of all, I know for a fact that's not true.
What?
You probably just don't remember it. Because we watched the entirety of Buffy while playing DDO way back when, a couple of times. Because
That
it was our
being-
background TV show.
Objectively speaking, though, this is a bit sad, like, from a gamer aspect. We didn't actually get that far in DDO for the amount of time we played in DDO.
No, we really didn't.
Yeah. Anyways.
To be fair, I think we just kind of like going through that opening area a good chunk.
Yeah. First dungeon was really cool.
But yeah, you'll kind of get a lot of that layered singing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really nice, like in something like where you can get like the themes of each character, the leitmotifs kind of merging together.
Yeah.
Which is really a big thing. And like good musicals kind of have it set up so those leitmotifs can be blended together, which
Well, I
I think
mean-
they did here.
Oh, yeah, and to enhance that, like, the amount of songs that they called back to later on in the film, even as just recognition of them.
Yeah.
Like the was it the To Sing, the Cage song and Joanna, and like how that kept coming back.
Mm.
I thought that was neat, and it kind of like reinforced what am I trying to say? Help reinforce and bring all the songs together.
Mm.
Well, you know what? That's a good I think I'm about to compliment myself. That's a good observation, Drew. From the musicals I have seen, I think this piece had, like as it was shown in the 2007 film, had the most cohesive layout of songs.
Mm.
They're very directed to the plot and pushing it forward and felt like they all belonged.
Mm.
Like it's not a cat situation, or it's just like having some random number to fill space. Like everything was
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah. They do that very well, and they keep keeping the themes and just knowing how to modify them to help keep it all together.
Mm-hmm.
There was one, I wrote it down. I actually didn't write down the piece because I'm terrible. So like there's the barber and his wife, bit of a motif,
Mm-hmm.
right? The barber and his wife. I really like they did little things like they just kind of slowed it down and like, I don't know, changed the key just a bit when it's like when he first goes into where the crib was.
Yeah.
Right, just these little notes. Basically, you've got like that song. You've got Joanna. You've got the worst pies in London themes, kind of always rearing their heads throughout,
Mm-hmm.
which very much makes it very much adds to the cohesion.
Yeah, and they keep being referenced outside of the songs too.
Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing. There was one, Hamilton does this very well. Like they've got this leitmotif of counting,
Mm.
and for the most part, it in a couple places it's kind of done negatively, but there's this one character that it's kind of doing it a little bit more happily. But if you're noticing and paying attention to the music, you've realized that there's a foreshadowing in that.
That's neat.
Because yeah, I mean, it's one thing that we've kind of talked about just in movies in general, talking about music and not necessarily musicals. I know you said in the past, like the music isn't necessarily what jumps out at you
Mhm.
when you're watching a film, but it's one of those things that, like, when you do notice that just in a background sound piece, you can really start getting a feel for a character, and you can even use that as that again that foreshadowing or storytelling in and of itself.
Oh, for sure. Well, that's the thing, like having music in the forefront and the choices that they make definitely draw more attention to it. I guess my particular point of view is I think in a regular movie, the music is meant to enhance the scene that is occurring, the visuals, the emotions, etc. And when it's taking center stage, it's a bad thing for me.
Yeah.
Unless you're specifically acknowledging like, oh, that's the perfect choice, right?
Mm.
The only time music is really allowed to take the center stage is if it's like a film from like 95 to 2005, and it's literally just to sell a soundtrack.
Yeah.
Because those soundtracks are lit, yo. Rivalia. And now, Romeo, you must die.
And I agree. It's like, yeah, it shouldn't jump out, but like when you do those themes properly, and again, you see how they layer together. Like you kind of see it in the Avengers, like they all have kind of their own themes and they fit together. Kind of go into the more Avengers theme, and it's something that actually was apparently a major pain point for like the Wonder Woman film, because Batman had a theme, Superman had a theme, and Wonder Woman didn't have a film, so she didn't have a musical sense. And so like every time, like when I watch DC movies, like, well, there's Wonder Woman, because they have nothing they can play with because it was never written to be played with. And yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Wonder Woman films. I did see the Justice League film, which was fine.
I watched the Snyder Cut version. It was a movie. I saw it.
I'm just saying, like, everybody was so
didn't do
stoked on
anything.
the Snyder Cut, and I was like, there's no way it's better.
No, the Whedon version is better.
Yeah. Like,
Eh.
it's either of the same quality or somehow worse. And
what I realized, having like when I did finally watch both, is like, oh, Whedon had a lot of things to fix.
yeah,
He did the best he could. Okay.
yeah.
Because I'm sorry, Snyder is not that good a director. He really isn't, but he's very good with his visuals.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Sucker Punch, terrible movie.
Terrible movie.
Fantastic visuals.
Oh, the best.
And the best. And I will literally watch a film just for the visuals and to hear Bjork. that one.
Oh, what song is that?
Army of Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you meet an army of me. I can't even like pretend to hit her tone and inflection on that. Such an interesting singer.
Yeah.
And the highlight of
really
The Northman.
Yes. Yeah, Snyder's not all that good. You guys are all wrong.
Well, I mean,
I'm sorry.
I get why people were hyped for it.
Yes.
Because it was like, at best, Justice League was fine.
Yeah.
And if you're like a fanboy, at best you could get is good.
Mm.
It's not great, it's not excellent, it's not defining. And it's such a shame, because I think Batfleck would have had a great solo movie.
Oh, I think so too.
I think he did a great job as Bruce, and I think he did a great job as Batman.
Which is something that generally don't get.
Yeah, it's one or the other.
Yep. That's just how it be.
Clooney was a great Bruce.
Absolutely.
He's the worst Batman.
By far.
And like, we have Adam West in this pool. I'm just saying.
To be fair, he's probably also one of the ones that's a bit better at being both.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I have a newfound respect, because I watched the newest Batman with Sparkle Boy.
Yeah.
And I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great movie.
I thought so too.
Yeah, it's like top 3 Batman movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was really well done. And I think Sparkle Boy, very much like
Patterson.
Yeah.
I'm not being a jerk. I actually forgot his name for a second.
Oh, because I was gonna go make more jokes with it.
Well, I mean, you can.
I was gonna go with Can't Close Her Mouth Girl.
Oh.
They definitely get more of a bad rap than they deserve. But we've definitely talked about that a lot.
Especially about Stewart.
Yeah.
Such bad raps.
Yeah.
Literally, like, a film that is some of the defining of neutral masks, because everyone's like, Violet's terrible unless you're a tween girl. And I'm like, honestly, it's okay. And vehicle for girls, especially girls during confusing time of their lives, to project upon.
Hmm.
Like, Stewart nailed it.
Yeah. I
Like,
think that was actually my take on seeing Twilight. I never bothered with the others. As you said, it was like the definition of neutral mask, because I remember leaving that movie and going like, I think this is the most mediocre thing I've actually seen. Like there's nothing that like super stood out to me either way. It's just like, yes, this was the thing I did. I could see how easy it would be to project into things.
well, this is why Divergent didn't go that well otherwise.
Mhm.
Because there wasn't really that neutral mech. They put too much character into your primary protagonist.
Yeah.
Which effectively took the ability for a person to imprint themselves on them.
Yeah. Hunger Games does lets you project onto Katniss a lot better. Which is a shame because it's unfortunate with Divergent because we never got the final film, and I think it's a better story.
Yeah. That
But
being said, to give credit to the Hunger Games, as the films progressed, they definitely injected more characterization onto Katniss. She
Mhm.
definitely developed into more actually full-fledged character.
Yes.
But by then, you're already captured, right?
Yeah.
You know, famous musical, The Hunger Games.
You know, it probably exists. I've
I'm
just been made aware of the Death Note musical, okay? Apparently it's not bad. Even the English version.
Well, there were some weird musicals. Was there a Kenshin musical?
Probably.
No, it was a Sailor Moon musical.
Oh,
That I'm
there is a
thinking.
ton of them.
Yeah.
There's like one a year at least.
Yeah.
Like it's got its own lore, its own story arcs.
um,
I've been meaning to grab them.
the Sailor Moon stuff, the Sailor Moon live action, they've all been wonderful.
Mm.
We're like so off track here.
Oh god, yeah.
Let's wrestle it back.
What did we do? How did that happen? Oh man, there's a real EFAP moment.
Notice me, senpai. It actually went off track when you made a great analogy about Wonder Woman not having her own musical tone.
Yes. Yes, that is exactly where it went off.
And what's really interesting here, like I don't know much about Sweeney Todd in the stage play performance or was there one in the 30s or something like that?
There's been
There's
several different versions of it. Like I think it's based off of like a novella, like around the same time like Sherlock Holmes and such would have been written.
Yeah, there is
character, but
definitely another movie about this.
yes, there are other Sweeney Todd movies. I don't think they're music. Pretty sure this is the only musical one version of the musical. I do know there's others.
Maybe that's what they should have done to save Cowboy Bebop.
Made it a musical?
Yeah, made it a live action jazz musical. Then all of a sudden, all your changes are kind of forgivable because it's got to fit within a musical context.
I don't want to.
You'd watch it. You're addicted
Oh
to musicals, not bad remakes.
Oh, you know, sometimes it's all right to watch a bad remake, but at least try to keep it a little bit tied to doing.
Speaking of good remakes, Sweeney Todd.
Yes.
I really enjoyed this as a film, as a musical piece, and my negative observations about this film, that being like no real big numbers, not exactly the most powerhouse of singing cast, things like that. These are observations, not gripes or complaints.
Yeah.
I don't mean them in a negative way, because I think the bleak tone of like the color and the makeup and the shot choices and the obvious filter they put on it,
Yeah,
like it matched, and it was very suitable.
Yeah, it's a somber story. Like it's a tragedy. We're following we're following unlikable characters. But they've been made very likable with how they are played. um, like you're not supposed to be rooting for them. And honestly, if Joanna wasn't a piece of it at all, you probably wouldn't be. Um,
No, actually, that's a good point because felt like a revenge story, but as soon as you realize like the daughter's around and they could potentially meet up, and the barber could have a happy ending,
mhm.
you start actually kind of rooting for him in that way,
Yeah.
rather than
Uh,
just bad people all around doing bad things, as Todd expressed multiple times.
mhm.
There's a big black hole and child
Yeah.
within is just shit.
Yeah.
Can't remember the exact phrase. What I like is they avoided the poetically tragic ending by just making it a tragic ending.
Explain a little bit further.
So Sweeney Todd's motivation is to get revenge
Yes.
and kill people, even though he knows his daughter is alive. He thinks his wife is dead, and through all that, he gets his revenge, a moment of satisfaction. But then he realizes he killed his wife, doesn't recognize his daughter, and then he dies knowing that.
Mm.
But the choices that they made, especially their not being a song, it's still having an act of revenge.
Mm.
Because so what I mean is he discovers that someone he just killed was his wife.
Yes.
Then Mrs. Lovett gets found out that she knew that his wife was still alive.
Mm.
But then immediately Sweeney Todd just continues his wrathful existence
Mm. Yes.
and kills Mrs. Lovett.
Mm.
Which, uh, aside from the young couple in love, out of the rest of the cast, Mrs. Lovett could have some type of redemption. So it took all the poetry out of the scene. There
Mm.
wasn't the thought of like everybody on the world disappeared, and now I finally have time to read my books. Oh, I broke my glasses.
Oh, okay.
There's none of
Yeah.
that kind of situation.
Yeah.
This is what I kind of mean. It took the poetry out of the tragedy and made it just pure tragedy.
Okay. I can see what you're saying with that. I definitely think the revenge aspect's still there. So let's kind of just address a couple of the points individually there. So it entered my mind as like, oh God, you don't like. It's so weird that you don't recognize your own daughter.
Mm.
And then I realized almost immediately after I had that thought that of course he doesn't recognize his own daughter. It's been 15 years. She
Well,
is 16.
well, even then, like the way that they develop.
Mm.
I'm not saying girls,
Yeah.
young girls.
Yeah.
I'm saying children. Like it's like a baby does fundamentally look different than their teenage self.
Yeah.
There's similarities, but generally, when you're thinking about this, you have context.
Mhm.
Say you look at a TV show and they're like these celebrity baby photos, figure out who's who or whatever, and then
Yeah.
you have to guess based on the baby picture. You already know what the celebrities look like.
Yeah.
So kind of like the reverse thing. It made sense to me.
Hmm. So it made sense that he didn't know that. There's a shift within Todd's character
Mm-hmm.
partway through the film. So he wants his revenge, then realizes, hey, Joanna's still there. He didn't necessarily know that like immediately. Cool. Still wants his revenge against those guys in particular.
Yeah.
Understandable. Then it's like not until after he thinks that Joanna is just gone for good that he really starts going on his murderous rampage.
Yeah, the turning point would be when he was about to get his revenge,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden the sailor came in,
Hmm.
stole the revenge from him, and then the whole like she's now like been taken away, like that whole
Yeah.
segment. And then he became, his soul aspect became about vengeance.
Yeah. I don't even know if his soul aspect was about vengeance at that point. I think it was, I mean, it was definitely part of it, but I think he was just like, was literally just lashing out at the world at that point and, you
Actually, I think that's a
getting
good way
over
to
the-
say it, especially when he was killing just everybody.
Yeah. Um, so, and then you come back to Love It. when he finds out that he killed his wife, which, to be fair, I think the film I think kind of lied to us a little bit with that. I guess not to us, but it makes it almost understandable why he would have just done that, because we see her, like, obviously the second you see her in the background of Joanna, I'm assuming you realized that that's who that old beggar woman was. But from we see her very golden in the flashbacks, which, let's give it a little bit of benefit here. Things were a bit oversaturated there, so you could have those big color pops to really distinguish between them. But then you go to, like, the coloring on her is so far off from that throughout until he sees her lying dead at the bottom of the
furnace, like, with the light cast.
The first, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, look at that! Now she looks almost identical to her again. Just with a bit of soreness.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of trickery that I don't know if I necessarily agree with. Like, I look at it, it's like, no, she clearly looked different enough that he's not necessarily going to recognize, especially when he's in a bit of a fit of rage. I think I'm saying that a bit stronger to me, but it's there enough that, again, Vegas goes like, yeah, no, I get it. He's about to be found out. Got to end it.
I don't think there's any scenes before that where they interact or see each other.
Not where they interacted with each other, no. That was their first meeting, because not that she wasn't trying, which is, I mean, again, really puts a pin on or not a pin, a spin on Lovett getting rid of the old woman all the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's reasons for this now.
Yeah, the only gap or hole in this film is, like, Mrs. Lovett's existence. Because in context, they're like, okay, she's always been here. You understand why. Or, like, you understand that she has always been here, but you don't understand how she's been around, what her relation is, how much, like, they knew each other. You just know that it was a fact. And I think that could have been missing, like, especially with Mrs. Lovett's, husband, etc. It's just a weird gap that I'd like to know about.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like, we definitely get Todd's motivation, and even, like, how it changes in the second act. We never know what hers is, but she's, like, always just kind of comfortable with it, even though she acted as, like, a bit of a tempering force on him at the beginning of the film. Like, it's a really interesting characterization. But yeah, it does make you definitely want to know more about her. Yeah.
An interesting film.
Yeah. Like, speaking of, like, the okay with murders, like, it's not that she's opposed to murder. She's just opposed to it being senseless murder. There was a scene like that, like, at the beginning before he actually started doing his killing, or, like, on the first person he killed. She's like, Pirelli. She's like, but why? She's like, oh, because he knew who I was, and it was gonna spoil the whole thing. He's like, oh, okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah. I mean, that's a bit fantastical. Out of nowhere, she would start just being okay with a bunch of people being murdered in the same building as her. That was definitely kind of the state of things. I wonder, that's a weird change of character, though, for her to suddenly be, like, kind of okay.
Well, so this is, like, I don't think she was ever not okay with it. I think she was just trying to temper him.
Okay.
Right, because, I mean, again, she was there for the My Friend song. Like, he's kind of already talking about it.
Yeah.
Right. She clearly knows that, like, she knows this is a plan. You see that in the interaction just before the shave off. Right? She's, again, just, nope, it's not time yet. I just don't think she wanted senseless at first. And then she realized that, well, because now we've got meat when you got it.
Yeah. Now my business is going well.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Times are tough. Clearly that means resort to cannibalism. Because, I mean, I think the big thing is, like, she's always clearly very devoted to Todd. And like watching that through, it's like, okay, well, nope, I'll help you hide the body one way or another. I think one of the biggest things I liked about it was she was also very protective of Toby.
Yeah.
You see that from as soon as you see interacting with him. And to the song they're kind of duet about, I'll always protect you, right? Not while I'm around. First of all, I thought it was adorable that he thought that Mrs. Lovett had no idea what was going on. I'm like, aw, that's cute. And just like with her being so protective. Oh yeah, no, nothing's gonna happen to you while I'm around. Here, let me show you how to make the meat pies, and I am now going to lock you down here because I know we gotta kill you. I'm like, yep, I know where her. She would have really liked to have him around, but he's gonna ruin everything because he doesn't like Todd. I like the characterization. I like the build-up. It was fun.
Yeah, it makes you wonder that if they had like continued, had not had just everyone die, and they actually like killed the kid and made him into a pie, if that would be their new thing, like get a kid from the workhouse, use them to help serve tables and stuff and give him a decent life until like he gets weird or suspicious, and then you make him into a pie and you just get a new kid.
Oh, I was watching an abridged series. I was watching Sword Art Online abridged specifically, and they have the two big characters very toxic towards each other, and it's amazing. Basically, the idea is like they get married because neither of them wanted to back down. They give themselves an out, and they both have this internal monologue. It's like, no, that was our chance. What's wrong with you? And then all of a sudden, like a kid appears. Kind of makes sense. All of a sudden, they've got a kid, and they have this fight, and they finally come to a conclusion, make some sense, and agree on something for the first time ever. So then they go buy an orphanage. So they have spares. And you just say, it's like, yeah, no, just go get a new kid. Immediately jump in is like, yep, this would be a good plot point. It's like, it's not how it works. Don't buy an orphanage.
They buy the building next to the pie shop and they fill it with orphans. I think
exactly.
Very spooky film. I have nothing to add.
Yeah, we went all over the place, but I quite enjoyed the conversations overall. So
I'm thinking one of these days, Batfleck and how the best Gotham was actually the Gotham that was portrayed in Batman and Robin.